everyone, welcome to Beyond episode 503. My name is Marty Sleva. I'm joined by Alana Pierce and Andrew Colfarb.
Whenever you host, you don't say Beyond.
Oh, Beyond.
Beyond.
Okay.
I feel like you introduced it like an NPR segment.
Yeah, thanks.
Welcome to
that's what I'm going
Beyond
for.
episode 503.
This week
Cereal.
on Beyond 503, we are going to talk a ton about Uncharted: The Lost Legacy with both Andrew and Alana got to play quite a bit of at an event down in LA. We're going to talk a little bit about Pyre, which is the new game by Supergiant, which came out this week, which I played, and I think is super rad. We're going to touch on the sort of big news from the Call of Duty Zombies reveal and talk about where we've been this past week, which I guess we'll just kick that off with right now. So Alana and I, we were at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Andrew was at pretty much, it's sort of like Comic-Con.
I would say like a cool thing. It was kind of like Fire Festival, but for a little cartoon JPEG.
A fire type festival. Yeah. So Andrew was at Pokemon Go Fest. We were at Comic-Con. Let's start with Comic-Con.
Yeah.
We've done this a couple years in a row. The Sindago Chamachan. There's not a ton to talk about games-wise out of there.
It was actually like a kind of disappointing games presence.
Especially for PlayStation.
Yeah, there was a lot of Nintendo. There was an Xbox booth that really was just Shadow of War. But aside from that, yeah, I don't think I saw any PlayStation games there, which I think is an interesting choice. But having PSX, like I feel like they don't want to spread themselves too thin, right?
Sure. I mean, it's that whole thing, like we're in the middle of convention season, so it's weird to go from E3 and then have Comic-Con sort of directly in the center between that and Gamescom.
Yeah, but PlayStation also has a pretty strong presence at Paris Games Week. So it's like they have a lot of stuff that is more game specific. Whereas, Comic-Con is such a broad show. There's so much stuff there. There was a lot of cool cosplay.
Yeah.
We did an Overwatch meetup that we shot. I cosplayed as McCree, which I've had planned for like 6 months.
Is that the Cowboyman?
That's the
Your
Cowboyman.
McCree was pretty good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Liked it.
Yeah.
The Doomfist was really good.
It was the Uncharted event we're about to talk about. We met up at LAX and then went to together. And we were at LAX at Baggage Claim, and she was opening up her bag, and she was like, "Oh, I have my McCree cosplay with me." And she was like showing it to me. I was like, "Wow, that's really cool." And she was like, "This is the gun." And I was like,
"You can't say that."
Like, in hindsight, maybe don't do that in an airport.
Like for the past 16 years or so, that's something you really shouldn't have done in an airport.
Well, because of cosplay, I've taken a lot of guns through airport security in the past, and I'm always
Prop
like,
guns, fake guns.
I'm always like, it's fake, and they're like, yeah, that's what they always say. I'm like, is it always fake? And they're like, yeah, mostly.
Yeah, mostly. What did you think of Comic-Con though? Like it was awesome. We had this amazing live show that we did. We did 3-4 days of live show stuff where we had like Brian interviewed Colin Firth and Halle Berry and Channing Tatum.
We were all hanging out when Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling were in the room. It was funny. There was a point when Zach was like, anyone who is not working, get out of this room. And I was like, all right, I need to make up work to do so I can sit here while this is happening. And I did. It was fine.
It was great.
I think our Comic-Con live show was super cool. The set's really cool. My show was really sporadic and crazy because we're still doing stuff for the IGN show, which is on Disney.
So can you just say a little bit about that? Because I feel like people sort of tangentially knew, and we've sort of described what it is, but like, what is that?
Yeah, I saw a thread in the Facebook group of someone who thought it was a Disney podcast. You're like, oh, no, not at all. Wow. It is basically what I'm saying. This is someone who has never seen G4 TV. What G4 TV was. It wasn't in Australia. So it's a lot of like, we have 5 main hosts and a lot of different segments where we cover, like, I covered the Uncharted event for it. We did the Overwatch meetup for it. We've done stuff at RTX, D23. So lots of different conventions. And it's mostly about the people who are on the show, just like hanging out, showing you cool stuff. And also a lot of breaking news and exclusive gameplay reveals. So it's basically like, if instead of having content go on IGN constantly, we just had one show at the end of the day, this is what it is, but with more variety than something like The Daily Fix. So it's kind of like a catch-all, fun gaming culture show. Yeah,
and it does a cool job of giving you sort of the flavor and texture of not only events like D23 or VidCon, but also just like of The Office. We shoot in a lot of places, or you guys shot in a lot of places in The Office that we don't normally go. Brian and Max's desk is featured prominently.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like a reoccurring character.
Kind of got kicked out of their desk for a while.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. So we shot a lot of stuff there. Miranda did a Pokemon Go hunt there as well, actually. And I mean, I love SDCC because I think San Diego is such a cool city. And it's just the temperature rules. Like, it's fun. It is crazy, though. Like, it's just so full on with all the entertainment news.
Yeah, it's hectic. You mentioned Pokemon Go. Andrew, you went to the old Windy City.
I did.
What was that like?
I, too, was at a sunny event filled with celebrities. But those celebrities were Pocket Monster.
You? Oh, damn.
Yeah. Yeah, me.
We're talking about Pokemon Go for the record because we recognize that it is not a PlayStation title, but because Andrew was actually there, and it's fascinating.
Well, and it's a mobile title, so even if you don't have you probably have a device out of
spoke about it when it came out.
Yeah, we don't have to get a ton to it. Just that it was kind of a mess. It was like nothing worked, and it was people were like freaking out. But it was
like Pokemon Go.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah. Like I wrote about that today, and there's a whole wrap up of this on the site. But yeah, like in the shortest version of this is that like people got very mad that the game didn't work and it became a little bit of a disaster. But that was sort of like you joke, but that was like really emblematic of what the game was like when it launched. So it was like a very fitting 1 year anniversary thing. But I don't know, it's still like it had like a really special sense of community, I think, and like seeing people working together when the game was functional was really cool. And it was actually probably one of like my favorite gaming events I've been to because it was like so many people that had to like literally work towards a common goal because they had like catch bonuses. And all
I
that
saw
stuff.
a comment on the article that you wrote of someone basically thanking you for bringing up the positive points because I think a lot of the media that covered it was very sensationalist in the interest of making it look negative because it's more interesting.
I mean, it's right. It's totally more interesting if it's a disaster. And in a lot of ways,
disastrous.
it was, yeah. But like when it was working, it was genuinely cool. And like, I think for every person I talked to who never got the game to work and left really disappointed, there were 10 other people who were like, oh, like I made really good friends with this guy. And we actually are both from this, like there were these two dudes I talked to that had flown in from the same place, but didn't know each other. They were like both from the same town, wherever it was.
And they were brothers.
And then, they were long
They finally
brothers.
met.
They
They
shared
looked
one
exactly
egg.
alike. Yeah.
I don't know if that's how babies.
That's not how brothers work. But
I mean, if you're twin brothers, if you're they call them egg bros, little eggies.
Yeah.
so anyway,
Little
what
egg
Pokemon did you
Xbox.
catch?
I caught an Unknown and a Heracross, which are Heracross is only in South America, but it was in Chicago just for the event.
That's
and then
cool.
Unknown, it's like impossibly rare. I caught a couple of those. And then I got Articuno and
That's awesome.
Lugia.
So who's left on your Pokédex that you don't have?
From the original 150 at least.
100?
From the original 150, it's only the only one that's in the game that I don't have yet would be Kangaskhan. And that's it.
And
And
then
then
the
and then
Moltres-
Corsola, you can only get in. Oh yeah, Zapdos and Moltres aren't in the game yet,
And
but yeah, I
Mewtwo,
guess they're
obviously.
coming. And Mewtwo, yeah, that's right. I guess that's a good point. I hadn't even
That's
thought
what
about
we
that.
were expecting from the Chicago event was Mewtwo.
Yeah, it was because they said it was Articuno because that team did the best. But anyway, there's a lot about Pokemon Go. But I mean, you can. I did a pretty full wrap up on the site, just kind of about like the good and the bad. So
I mean, you just mentioned. I think the event as a whole is interesting. Just also in the grand scheme of like official events for
absolutely.
games.
Yes,
Like
totally.
you have these things like PAX that we've all been to that are catch-alls where it's not only games but it's also like board games and it's cosplay meetups, and so it's sort of everything. And then you have something like PSX, which is a little bit more focused, and obviously it's fans of PlayStation. And then you dig even deeper, and you have Minecon, and you have this, and you have COD XP. So I think it's BlizzCon, yeah, which is a company, QuakeCon. I think it's interesting, sort of the varying degrees and sort of what it takes for a single game to be popular enough to actually
I mean,
warrant.
it's
a gathering
amazing
like that.
on Pokemon Go's behalf, but I really think in the future it makes sense. Like I think EA Play would be more successful if it weren't during E3 because it becomes such like a mess.
And if it was somewhere else.
Yeah, that I
That'd be
wonder
cool.
if more of them will start doing that because I'm pretty sure that they didn't show another Last of Us Part 2 trailer at E3 because they're going to show something of that at PSX.
yeah,
Where everyone felt like it was missing, but it's like, well, it makes a lot more sense for them to have it at their own event.
yeah, it's for the most hardcore people.
Yeah.
I look forward to maybe next year we'll get a No Man's Sky Con. I think a lot of people are still really into.
Nomansky Con? Incredible.
Oh, I forgot even the name of that Ubisoft game that's No Man's Skylanders. What's the actual name of that
Jeez,
game?
Oh.
the one that's toys.
Oh my
The
god,
one that's toys.
isn't it like Skylink or something?
You might be right.
I think it's something : Skylink.
Just
Whatever it is, I
Dance.
like
Yeah, that's it.
No Man's Skylanders a lot.
I like
me
No Man's
too.
Skylanders as well.
Me too.
Let's rename it.
I don't think we have the authority to do that.
Starlink. Maybe it's Starlink.
I think it's Starlink.
What if we
It's like
start a
Starlink : something.
Starlink
Battle
colon
Evolved
Rabbids
Attack.
World Tour.
Kingdom Battle?
Wonderful. There was a segue somewhere before here when you guys were talking about PSX because one of the big games that was revealed last year during PSX was Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. And then we got a little bit more, obviously, at E3. But finally, you guys both got a chance to go hands-on with an extended chunk of it. And that's one of the big, that's the big Sony game of the fall-ish. Like, that's a big August game. And a lot of people are like, is this just DLC or is this a proper Uncharted game? So tell us.
Big old game.
Yeah, it's a big old game. I mean, the section we played was chapter 4, so like we haven't seen everything before and after
Exactly
that, obviously.
40 minutes of chapter 4.
But it's like it felt like a game within a game. Like it felt like an open world game that someone put inside of an Uncharted game. So it was like this super open-ended area, even more so than Madagascar in Uncharted 4, because in that you're still being chased and you have some degree of a single objective that you're funneling into. It's just that you have a lot of freedom, leading up to that stuff. But here, like you really did. Like you can go anywhere, do anything in any order. Like if you do 2 hours before you do one of the objectives, you theoretically could choose to do that. Like it's a much more open-ended experience, I think.
So the entire game takes place in India, and India obviously has a wide variety of ecosystems. So, like, what was the area like?
Look like Madagascar.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. It was a mountain range, so it was like the was it the Western Ghats? I think it is. So it's like it's a mountain range, and but yeah, it's a lot. It's very reminiscent of like ruins, and there's some like jungle-ish areas. There's still like mudslides and stuff. So it definitely felt. I mean, that's the thing, right? To answer the question, does it feel like DLC or a full game? It feels like a full game. Chloe and Nadine are very different characters. The only way it feels like DLC is that it is very obviously still on the bones of Uncharted 4.
It's like Blood Dragon to Far Cry.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
Like clearly, the only mechanic that I think they added was the lockpicking. Everything else is pretty much exactly the same. They kept a lot of the same systems. Chloe doesn't feel super different.
Yeah, she doesn't feel different at all. I mean, the things that are different is like you don't have a journal, you have a map.
She's shorter.
So it's like Chloe, yeah, she's shorter.
That actually has like a slight influence on things.
Oh, really? Like cover, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like camera angle. But yeah, it's like, so she has a map. So instead of taking like etchings of things and recording notes and stuff, she has this kind of two-pronged system. The first part is a map where you can't like place waypoints or anything, but it'll tell you the general direction you're headed, and she'll jot down points of interest as you find like treasures and stuff. And then she also has a cell phone where you take pictures of things, and then you can kind of look back on the photos you've taken for clues or whatever. And we didn't really get to mess with that too much, but it's
really
there. So it's something I'm sure it'll come.
So like lead into what we played. It's like you with Nadine, you drive into this area. There's a huge tower. You climb the tower. And then up the top, you open these doors, and they all point to different things that you need to get to that are based on these kind of emblems that you're looking for. And then you can get to them in any way that you want to in this environment that is supposedly one of the biggest environments, or the biggest environments that they've ever made. So then you walk to them like however you want to, or drive to them or whatever. Kind of a stealth mission to get into each of them. There's combat. You can avoid combat. I managed to do that entirely twice, which was really cool. Or you can just mess everyone up if you want to. And then there'll be like another kind of tomb related puzzle, and then there's 3 of them that you have to do that for, and I think there's one of them that's like a water wheel or something.
Yeah,
but it's changing the environment as you're doing it.
Did they feel different than like the puzzles in 4? Like, did it feel like you were doing different stuff?
I mean, they feel like traditional Uncharted puzzles for sure. It's still like you come to a big mechanism, and you have to figure out how to operate it, or you get through a combat section, and then you climb, and you have to you like turn 3 pieces of a wheel or whatever it is.
But I like the fact that you can do them in any order. It felt even the dialogue in those circumstances doesn't become jarring, because I guess I don't know how they managed to make it unscripted, but it flows no matter what, even if you're doing them in a completely different order to someone else. So it's cool. Like that choice doesn't add a ton, but it's nice to feel like you have more time to explore an environment and you aren't being funneled through an area.
It's also I mean, you mentioned going through stuff stealth. Like the things it added are their silenced weapons, which are like a huge kind of game changer, because like Chloe, like you mentioned this, but Chloe has this lockpicking skill where it's like there's supply crates, and you basically can just walk up and lockpick, and the mechanic itself is super simple. You just turn the left stick.
I don't
and
really
it,
find
vibrates.
the actual mechanic fun.
I feel like it's not supposed to be. Like for me, the lockpicking was like a risk reward thing where they're generally in groups of enemies. So it's like you have to sneak up to the box and lockpick it, which is pretty quick. But in doing that, like enemies can get alerted.
Sure.
So you can either like completely skip that and try and do things stealthily, or though, if you're lucky and you get through it and you get the thing, you'll get a silenced weapon that makes it way easier to go through stealthily. So it's like sort of this like it creates this tension, because like I got away with like 2 seconds left, because there's the triangle meters where it's like, it starts filling up yellow and then red, and it was like yellow, 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 and then I got the thing, got away just barely in time. So I think it like added a fun element to it, but I don't know. I like doing stuff stealthily because I'm bad at combat.
I enjoyed that too, but I also don't even think that the reason that I like this so much was anything to do with the gameplay. I really like the way the 2 of them bounce off of each other, because Nadine, obviously she's from Uncharted 4. She's just lost Shoreline. And so she's like, this is one of her first jobs, kind of independently, not managing basically a big group of people. Yeah. And she's been hired by Chloe, and it's Chloe's first like solo mission as well. And they're just very different people. So Chloe will do something kind of instinctively, a little bit carelessly almost. And then Nadine gets really frustrated because that's not how she should be approaching these things, and the conflict between the 2 of them and the way they approach things differently is really, really interesting. And it's clear from all of the dialogue that they are colleagues rather than friends. And they said, I think in your interview, I feel like it was you that told me this, they had to dial back some of the dialogue to make sure they never got too friendly.
Oh, I don't think that was from mine. That's
maybe it was mine then.
Yeah.
But it was along the lines of like they wanted to make sure they never sounded too buddy or like too friendly. So they had to make adjustments to be like they are like flirty in their own unique way. They are like they joke off of each other, but they definitely I think that one of the main conflicts in the story is going to be the 2 of them having a giant fight. And
because they're like reluctantly partnering.
Basically,
like,
they're in it for money.
It's like they're like kind of thrust together by circumstance, because it's like a marriage of convenience. Basically, it's like Chloe is on her first solo mission, but like needs muscle. And
she's really selfish. I think that like her main instinct is self-preservation. But then
I'm curious about like the stuff they've talked about in the past of like her like past playing into it. Like it's like apparently like the artifact they're looking for has to do with something like her father told her about as a kid.
That's
And,
the Tusk of Ganesh.
yeah.
But the dialogue encounter where she brought that up, Nadine asked about it, and she was like, "Oh, that's a story for another time." So I wonder how much they're actually going to delve
Chapter
into that.
5.
Yeah, but it does seem like it's about the two of them and their history, and then them trying to figure out how to work together, but also about the bad guy Assad.
Yeah,
I think it's Assad. Yeah,
I really like how understated he is. Like we haven't seen that much of him, but like he seems to be a very, like he's not like a cackling like crazy person. Yeah, and which I think fits the tone of this really nicely. That he's like sort of a fellow researcher gone evil, basically, is what it feels like. I
think it's really cool that it feels like so many of the relationships in Uncharted have become familiar just based on the fact that like we sort of understand Nate and Sully and we sort of understand Nate and Elena. And so it's interesting that we know who these two characters are separate, but they've never been in the same game together. So they've never been in the same room together.
And
so
to a lot of
full
point,
game built on that is cool. To me.
Nate and Sully and Nate and Elena in different ways obviously love each other. Like those are people, and even Sam to some extent, like they're estranged, but like those are people who have each other's backs.
Yeah.
And that's not the case here. Like they have each other's backs because they signed a business agreement basically, but like there's not this like familial bond between them, and it's really like it sounds simple, but like I think they did such a good job of in that way making it feel so distinct because
it's
like
very different.
So they're not sitting on the couch and playing like Jack and Daxter 1 together?
No,
I mean not in chapter
who
4.
does the dishes?
Yeah,
None of that. No, but I think that Nadine, I believe, knows Assad as well. So there's another relationship playing there that we don't really know anything about. So the reason that like it plays like Uncharted, I enjoy it. But the reason that I really want to play it is to find out more about these characters and the conflict that arises between them.
And I think it's a smart time after Uncharted 4. Like if this would have came out last fall, I might have been like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this again. But the fact that it's a year and a half almost, a little bit over a year, I think is a good amount of time.
Yeah.
It's a great amount of time. I totally agree with that. The only thing I was weird for is my dumb broken brain because I totally forgot the controls of Uncharted 4 because it's been that long. So it's like that weird thing of like I kept going for like Breath of the Wild's jump button and stuff.
Or
like,
Horizon or
exactly. Yeah. It was like a weird disconnect. I did really like so like there's still like winch puzzles with the truck and everything.
No one likes those. Those are real
but
bad.
They're better now. They really are. Like they're at least to me, and granted it's been a while since I played Uncharted 4, but they seemed to be telegraphed better and like I understood what to do a lot easier. In Uncharted 4 you would see like a tree branch that was kind of broken in the middle, and it was very clear that like, oh, this is something you can winch. But here there's like a little icon, like it felt a little clearer.
So you only play as Chloe in this, right? It's not one of those things where you're hopping back and forth, at least in what you've seen,
believe so.
or
So far.
choosing a character.
I mean, it's Naughty Dog, so who knows? I mean, I don't know if we ever play as young Chloe or if we switch to Nadine or something else. Like I think post Uncharted 3, they like to surprise you by switching perspectives.
Yeah,
so. But it really does. Like I'm excited that like I feel like we barely know anything yet. Like I feel like if everything we've seen is chapter 4 and earlier, that's incredible because like if this is a full-length Uncharted game, that means we barely have scratched the surface.
Oh yeah, well I asked how long the game would be, and they're like, we can't really answer that question, but it is going to be a full-length game, and I think they might have even like alluded to it being almost the same length as Uncharted 4, which
I feel like in the past,
I'm expecting it to be about 8 hours.
In the past, they've said
think
it's a
it's
little
10,
bit longer than Uncharted 1, but shorter than Uncharted 4. I mean, and I feel like, again, a game, like if you want to dick around in an open world for 2 hours, then
I think that's
your
why
your
it's a
length
hard
may
question to
vary.
answer.
Yeah. I would prefer it to be slightly on the shorter side just because I feel like Uncharted 4, like, I've said it
Behind was a
before.
really good length.
Yes, Left Behind was a perfect length. I would love it to be Uncharted's version of that.
Yeah,
it's also interesting that this is just the first, I guess no, Golden Abyss was the first non-numbered Uncharted game.
Yeah.
But if it's the length of that, I'm
Fight for Fortune.
Andrew, get out. I also think it's coming out at the perfect time. I think August 22nd. I think before the deluge of fall games, sort of a cap off the summer game. I think is really smart.
right in the middle of Gamescom.
Yeah, but I'm not going to the video Gamescom, so I can play it from here. As all my friends are in Germany eating Knackwurst.
Ooh, blood sausage.
Yeah,
Oh, I like Gamescom a lot.
Glad we had this talk.
amazing conversation, guys.
Thanks, Marty.
Moving on to
To Pokemon Go.
But no, I guess you can check out both. You both are going to have previews up this week. Both have impressions up. Cool. It'd be weird if they just completely contradicted each other. Yours starts with like, let me tell you why 4 reasons why Andrew's Uncharted 4, Lost Legacy preview was wrong.
Andrew Goldfob's Uncharted: The Lost Legacy preview. A response.
Yeah.
Kind of a fun social experiment. Like I play and tell you what I thought, and you play and tell me what you thought, and then we write each other's previews. It's fun for no one but us.
Just us.
Yeah. Was that a date?
Yeah, could be.
Cool.
Did I leave?
No. I
know you could say.
I don't know. This is our flirty dynamic. We have that familial
Will they,
love.
won't they? Like the familial bond? What? Moving on to a game that is out. Pyre released, I guess this is going up today. So today on PS4, Pyre, if you don't know, is the next game by Supergiant Games, who are the developers of Bastion and Transistor. You guys haven't had a chance to play this.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to play it.
Yeah.
I played.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to play it, and it is very strange. But after 2 hours, like I am completely sold.
Strange in a Transistor kind of way.
You
No,
compare it to basketball, right?
Strange, and the core mechanic of this game is like basketball. Okay, so everyone kind of knows what Bastion is. This top-down action RPG that's
Bastion's almost
it's real time. Yeah, it's simple. It's almost like a hack and slashy, top-down hack and slash game with a really interesting story mechanic and a really beautiful world and smart story. Transistor had a bit more of a deeper, pretentious battle system, where the battles almost came across.
I love the battles in that game.
So did I. I don't want to say MOBA-y, but you had like different powers.
I don't remember the names of the abilities. You team them together, as you went.
And you would like combine, not combine.
I feel like it had a weird learning curve, but I really
definitely had a weird learning curve. But it felt like a MOBA when you had these specific moves and they each had cooldowns. And Greg Kasavin, who's a big fan of Dota, mentioned that he was inspired by that. This is very different. So this is set in a sort of a fantasy world where you are you play a nameless character that they call the Reader, because you are the only person in this party who knows how to read, and they have this ancient tome that you are reading for the party members. And this group of sort of wandering exiles who've been exiled from the city for various reasons that you figure out throughout the game are in this caravan, and they're exploring the wilds, and they find you, and they were like, hey, can you read this, because there is this ancient rite, and if you complete the rite, you are able to get back into, like, earn your way back into society. And so you read this and you are sort of transported into the book. And so everything until you get transported into the book feels like 80 Days. If you ever played 80 Days, it's a mobile game that's around the world in 80 days, but it's pretty much a visual novel graphic adventure where you make choices, you decide, you talk to characters, but based on dialogue decisions, your relationship with characters will grow. You'll level them up by giving them compliments or by sort of.
This is all in the graphic novel part?
This is in sort of the visual novel part. Yeah. You get a choice where there's a fork in the road, and one character is like, I think we should go this way, and another one's like, no, I have a friend in this town. And so you have to
buy
choose.
a beagle and name it Turtle.
Yes, exactly. Oh,
Firewatch
Turtle.
reference.
Yeah, that was a Firewatch reference.
It's Bucket.
Turtle or Bucket.
No.
You named the turtle.
It's Bucket or there's a pun one. What's the pun one?
Bucket was a much better name for the turtle.
And what's the other dog? You can have a German Shepherd, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Pyre.
What was the turtle? It was such a good pun name. It was Turt Reynolds.
Turt Reynolds.
There you go.
Shout out to Turts. But then when you get into the actual battles, it is 3v3, and there's a versus mode, but just stick with the single player. So it's 3v3. You control your three characters, but you can only move one of them at a time. And so you can continually swap between who you're moving, but the other two are going to be stationary while one's moving. And there is an orb in the middle of the arena, and each team has a basket. And it is your job to get the orb into the other team's basket. But when you grab the orb, you're defenseless. If you don't have the orb and you're moving around, you can fire off energy, or you have this sort of aura wave to where if you approach someone with an orb and they don't get rid of it, you'll stun them and knock them out of the battle for a couple seconds.
And then they drop the orb, I think.
And then they drop the orb. And so the whole thing is you are passing the orb. It's sort of like strategic keep away basketball while also using the abilities of your characters. So characters will have like charge attacks. They'll have, you'll be able to jump over an enemy.
Can you take the orb from the enemy team if they picked it up?
Yeah, you have, because once the enemy team has picked it up, that character is defenseless. If you're holding the orb, you cannot attack. And so it's pretty much, think of Capture the Flag, where you're holding the flag and you can't fire a gun.
Yeah, it reminds me of this documentary called Space Jam about these aliens.
Yes, here's your chance to do your dance at the Space
exactly.
Jam.
And they each had like these powers.
Yeah. Except you weren't defenseless when you have the ball. Like you
kind of were.
I mean, you're also defenseless in regular basketball because you can't like hit.
Yeah,
someone.
exactly. What are you gonna do? Punch him with your third arm?
Yeah. Where's your third arm?
I don't know.
Was that the dad? Was that like?
No.
Was that Roger?
Didn't one of the aliens have multiple arms in Space Jam? No.
You're thinking of Goro from Mortal Kombat, or you're referring to like Bill Murray's penis. Episode name.
What else happened in Pyre?
Podcast Beyond, episode 503, Bill Murray's penis. And so it plays differently than any game I've ever played, other than maybe NBA Jam Tournament Edition.
That is very strange. Is it good?
Yes, it's very good. The story is really interesting. It's really well written. I find
How does this weird combat work into that story?
So far, it's a bit. I mean, it is that these things are the rights, and so the teams. So when you fall into the book, you are facing other travelers who also want to compete in the rights to sort of go back to be brought back into society.
rough.
And some of them, the first couple are just like jerks. And I'm like, well, I just want to kill that
What if
guy.
one of them's like a doctor?
You meet a family. And there's like father and his like surrogate son, and they're like really nice. Like the son shares like this amulet with you and everything. And like by beating them, like you guys get closer to being accepted back
Is that
into
an
society.
option? Can you,
You can't-
choose to not fight?
I think
them?
if you lose, you just lose the game. I think. It's really interesting though. I again, I'm only a couple hours into it. I don't know if our review's up yet, but our freelancer who reviewed it gave it a very high score. It's getting really good scores all across the internet. If you like Bastion or Transistor, you're gonna dig the storytelling. I want everyone to try out this combat because it's so hard to explain.
Yeah.
You would totally get it. Play an hour of the game, and you will totally sort of understand what I'm talking about.
I feel
and
like
why
I
it's
can
very hard to
picture it.
understand.
I can't picture how it's fun right now. But
It gets fun the deeper it gets. You start leveling up characters. You get a party bigger than 3, and you have to choose which character.
But it's single player. There's no multiplayer.
There
right?
is versus.
Oh, okay.
But like the core of the game is the campaign.
I know surprisingly little about Pyre. I'm realizing. Like I don't know how I just like I saw. I know it was at PAX a couple times. But I just never was assigned to
Sure.
but
preview
even
it, so.
at PAX, all their marketing materials is like, that's a pretty strange looking
Totally.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like Supergiant, that part almost goes without saying, right? It's almost like when we're talking about like Housemarque, like you know, like I feel like whether or not it looks good is almost something I don't even feel like I need to ask.
and
It's
you
just
know it's
more
gonna
like
have good storytelling. as well.
exactly, yeah. It's like totally like there are things I just sort of take for granted from them, and then I'm just like, okay, well, what's the mechanic?
Yeah. Did you really think Transistor was pretentious, or were you just being a jerk?
Yeah, I think Transistor is a little bit pretentious.
Oh my
I
God.
think
I
it has.
love
I like it a lot too.
I think it has
that's
the
not even me saying I don't like it. I think it's
Yeah.
just like it's like look how
But
smart
I'm really
I
pretentious,
am.
so-
I think it has the best use of the DualShock 4 in a non-controller aspect. I think between the light and
The speaker?
the speaker,
Yeah.
when the transistor,
Agree with
That's
when the
not the
sword
stuff I
becomes
like
corrupted.
about it. Like I
Yeah.
really like the story, but I think this game's a little bit pretentious.
Yeah, I think you're.
Have you considered that you're a hipster?
I'm absolutely a hipster. Yes, I haven't considered it. It's just that's it.
Yeah, we got those fancy new glasses. How about that?
That's true. Good point.
Moving on
Thanks.
to a game
Thanks.
slightly less pretentious. One of the games
Pokemon
that was one of the games that did have a pretty big showing at San Diego Comic-Con was Call of Duty World War II, and specifically they had a panel where they really just sort of blew the doors off of the zombies mode, which is just called Nazi Zombies.
Basically, Dead Space.
So that's the thing I'm excited about is that this. I don't think we're ever going to get Dead Space 4. Like you know, the core talent at Visceral who made Dead Space 1 through 3 is gone, and they're now at Sledgehammer. And I just don't think that's an IP that EA is going to revisit, especially now with the Star Wars.
I understand your logic, but I want to disagree because Dead Space is so good.
No, I totally cannot imagine like the way EA functions now.
I know.
I mean, maybe it's just like honestly, I feel like if they did it, they would do it. We're way off. Sorry,
get a
but
Star Wars horror game.
I mean, either Star Wars horror game or they could do literal Dead Space, but maybe even do it under the like EA Originals label and
Like
give
Star
it to someone
Wars
interesting.
Dead Space. That would be way better if they gave it to someone else.
Like give it to like an indie dev under the EA Originals label, making a new.
I want there to just be a survival horror game that takes place in Jabba's palace at night.
That'd be cool.
That'd be awesome.
No.
Well, I mean,
Star
that's
Wars
sort of
Dead
what
Space.
like 1313.
Look at that.
So in Star Wars 1313, it was on Coruscant, and you were on layer 1313 of the planet. Layer 1314 was completely pitch black. There was no light of any kind, and like at one point, the surface of the planet was going to break, and you would go down to level 1414, and there would just be tiny beams of light coming through, just where it broke, basically, and it would have been like a really cool horror vibe.
All right,
Sorry,
Bob.
we're way off
That
track,
sounds
but
awesome.
yeah, that game would have been so good.
But yes, games that are actually coming out. Call of Duty Nazi Zombies, which I don't know if you guys had a chance to see the trailer. It is super cool.
It's cool.
It is not like the last couple zombie modes. Some of them have been tongue in cheek, and they're like, we have Jason Mewes and we have like Jeff Goldblum as our voice cast. Like this is very much messed up, like almost like like Wolfenstein when Wolfenstein was sort of horror.
Totally, it has that Wolfenstein vibe because it's like literally
Nazis.
Nazi experiments.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about like this is how we're gonna win, and this is like the Fourth Reich or whatever.
And creating the Ubermensch, which is this like messed up, like fleshy amalgam of machine and metal and man.
I mean,
and
honestly,
Do you have any
obviously,
Kampfuns?
yeah, there are Kampfuns.
I think Dead Space is the main vibe, but
Is
I
there
also
Kampfun?
got kind of that Bioshock thing, and like I think
Yeah.
like honestly like. It's funny because like Call of Duty World War II like totally seems interesting, and like I'll play every Call of Duty campaign. I'm sure I'll play it, but like weirdly, I'm excited for this to fill that gap of like there hasn't been a Bioshock game in a few years. There isn't a Dead Space in the horizon anytime soon.
Wunderbar.
Wunderbar.
All right, I'm out of.
And it has
I'm out
is
of
that
German
it?
words.
Welcome. You have no
Yeah,
German?
it's just Kampfund.
I learned Quitong means receipt.
Yeah, I can
Oh,
read that one.
Eichhörnchen is squirrel.
Oh, you're way ahead of me.
Wonderful.
Okay.
This game has a cast.
Yes, it does.
It does have a cool
Impressive
cast.
one.
David Tennant from Doctor Who. It has Catherine Winnick, who's in The Dark Tower. Udo Kier, who's in Melancholia. And Ving Rhames.
You skipped LD Young.
Well, are you a big L.D. Young fan?
Yeah, I like Elektra a lot. There's two good MCU
she's like
people.
G.I.
in there,
Joe.
I forgot. Yeah, when it said Daredevil, I was just thinking Daredevil, like the bad one, the Ben Affleck one.
I know that's the first one that comes to my head too. I think the cast is really smart. They've done such a good job of finding names but not names. You know, like David Tennant, super famous. Plenty of people know who he is, but it's also not like distracting casting.
Sure,
like,
it's
in
not
the way
like
that
Channing
Kevin
Tatum
Spacey
or something. Yeah.
Well, I think Kevin Spacey was
Yeah.
like distractingly big for that role.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like really smart. They've done such funny stuff with Call of Duty Zombies casting. They had like Pam Grier and Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the zombies parts of those games are the parts that I like the most. So I'm totally down for it.
And they've said that it is like the core leads from Dead Space who are on this. So
Very
like
cool.
the fact that for the first time at Sledgehammer they get to make just a straight up horror thing, I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, it's funny because for years before Advanced Warfare, people talked about the rumor was that Sledgehammer was making a essentially Call of Duty Dead Space game.
Yeah.
And like I don't know whatever happened to that or if that was even real, but it's interesting if that like kind of was born.
Yeah, there's a lot of those Call of Duty games that never were.
Yeah.
Like there's the Roman Wars one, there was a
That's right.
Vietnam one that I think Sledgehammer was actually like working on when
Yeah, there's definitely a story to tell about what Sledgehammer's been doing since they came on because they did kind of support on Modern Warfare 3. And
where was that last minute with the whole Vince Zampella thing? They're like, hey,
Yeah.
no one's making this game, please make this game.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm super curious to see like what was on the drawing board ahead of Advanced Warfare and now.
Call of Duty : Dead Space.
You really just feel like the colon Dead Space. Is this like, are you making a colon joke with any of this?
No.
Oh, because the colon is the
think
body's
that's what
Dead
he was
Space. It's where the
Wow, it really is.
where the
We're talking about
roughage
turrets
comes in.
again?
Yeah, well, yeah, we're
it's
talking about
turrets
turrets.
again.
You know it.
Oh, that beagle.
The beagle.
Fuck it.
Also, speaking of turrets,
Yeah, Bucket was the dog.
Bucket
not
was the
the
dog.
turtle.
Yeah, yeah.
So what was the other turtle name? Turt Reynolds and or is there only there's the
no,
one
it
name?
was Old Turt McGirt. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think I
old
got
turtle
confused.
bastard.
There's multiple names for the dog and only one turtle.
I feel like there was 2 dogs.
No, there are
it
definitely
was-
2 dogs. I'm trying to remember if there were 2 turtles.
I believe the dog's name was Bucket, and there was 2 different.
You could choose different
Breeds.
names. There was a
Yeah.
German Shepherd and a Beagle, I think. And then I think you had two naming options.
Was one of them like a tough name and one of them was like a cute name?
Welcome
Maybe that's
to-
what it was.
Podcast Firewatch.
You and Mitch, RFB
what's-
Mitch, did a really good Firewatch podcast with the team.
Yeah, with
Firewatch.
Venom. Yeah, with all of them. So you should check that out. Also, I texted you earlier asking if you could be on the show, and as a joke, I said the things we're actually talking about, and then I said we're also talking about dogs, butts, and dog butts.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've
2 out
covered.
of 3.
really have.
Yeah, we've covered colons. We've covered.
Dogs sniff each other's butts. Humans
ones.
don't do that.
Yeah. No, that's
Crush
true.
it.
Speaking of
Some humans,
Speaking
but-
of the human colon, a very cool game named SuperHot is now coming to
Super
PlayStation VR and PS4. Alana, you reviewed SuperHot, so for people who don't know what SuperHot is, tell them what this game is, why it's cool, and then I will tell them why it's a little worrisome on PSVR.
SuperHot is a puzzle game disguised as a shooter. It is effectively, it's most environments are just white and enemies are red and they're kind of a crystalline and nothing really has much detail, but there will be weapons laid out in these environments that you have to try and get through and everything is one hit kill. So if someone shoots you, you're just dead. And there will be one of you and 4 of them. And sometimes one of my favorite levels is you are standing in an elevator. There are 3 of them surrounding you and it's a very tight space. So you have to figure out how to kill them all. And the catch is that enemies only move, or time only moves when you do. So you can stand completely still, and they do move like a really small amount, but barely, and survey an environment, and then kind of figure out how to go from there. Like I think the way that I solved the elevator one was by like punching the guy to the left of me to punching the guy to the left of me.
You're so bad with left
really
and right.
bad at left and right. To knock the gun out of his hand, doing that to the other guy, like picking up this guy's gun, shooting the guy in front of me, and it's like you really have to pay attention to the way that the enemies are moving and at what rate someone is going to come at you before everyone else. And every single environment is so different. I loved it on PC. I actually think that I scored this game too low. I think my main criticisms were I found the story incredibly cheesy, and then it doesn't introduce anything new. So it doesn't feel like there's a lot of progression throughout the game. It's basically this one mechanic that just functions the whole time.
But it's such a cool mechanic.
It's a really cool mechanic. I really do think that I scored it too low. But it's even better on VR. I played it on Oculus, and it's a really solid workout, but also because you are physically doing the movement to like snatch weapons off of people, it's so much fun and really intense, really fast, really quick respawns. It's just...
And almost like on Oculus, you get that Matrix feeling of when like Neo sort of like dodging the
Totally.
bullet, because the whole thing is you are literally like turning your shoulder to dodge a bullet as
and
it's slowly
crouching
going
down
by.
And it
it's-
works so well. We had it set up at what's now Cassidy's desk, I guess, but like for a while it was set up over there, and that was like the only time I've tried it in VR. But it's so much better.
Never want
than
to
with
stop
a
playing
controller.
it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
But is it not that good?
So
on
the
PSVR?
worry with PSVR is the fact that, it's not PSVR's motion tracking and capabilities is just inferior to Oculus and Vive. And so a lot of times it's easy to sort of accidentally move out of the detection box. And when it moves out of the detection box, it just thinks you're moving, which means time moves in the game, which means you die. And so like legit, like moving out of the PS4's detection box just results in failure. It doesn't result in like, let me recalibrate. It's just failure. So if the levels are bite-sized, like none of the levels are extremely long, but if you're in a particularly tough level and you get very close to the end or about to complete it,
quickly.
you can die very easily. It's like, it would be like if you're playing like Hotline Miami or something, and then your controller desyncs for a second right near the
a
end.
stupid death in SuperHot is very annoying because it's so much trial and error to actually figure out how to finish a level that I think like getting almost to the end of it, even if it's a 10-second level and then dying. Because the cool thing it does do is that it replays every level to you in real time as though time hadn't slowed down. You're like, oh, that was 2 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels like
the elevator thing. You're killing 3 dudes in an elevator. That's instantly.
feels like it's so slow when you're playing it
Yeah.
out. But yeah, that's a really good point and a valid concern.
Yeah, but it's the VR is still really cool. It just sort of comes with that little tag. But
I'm
even
glad it's coming to PS4 because I remember
totally.
the debut I think was on Microsoft's stage at E3 because that was the trailer that we got that didn't say anything about what the game was, just had the super hot.
Yeah.
And it was like even after that I was like, holy crap, I want this game. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I'm glad it's coming to PS4.
It's also another Polish game, and Poland just is weirdly now home to so many cool developers. Like between getting stuff like The Witcher and Vanishing of Ethan Carter and Dying
One of
Light.
their biggest exports.
Yeah,
Like everything to do with
They
that
gave a
franchise.
copy to Obama.
Yeah, of The Witcher 2.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah. Do you think he played it?
Oh yeah, he
I hope
loves
so.
it.
No, he's an Elder Scrolls man.
Yeah, that's
He actually
that's true.
plays ESO a bunch now that he's retired. Or
No, he actually plays Elder
unemployed.
Scrolls Legends though, like the new Skyrim pack.
oh,
I like the idea that like, he was like, now that I am out of office, I've decided to pick up on video games.
the first one is going to be Morrowind.
And then I'm going to start my own
Shivering Isle.
Minecraft server. It's going to be PvP only. Please let me know if you would like to join. Don't steal from each other's chests.
I bought a video game for my daughters called Knack. I hope you all enjoy it. Speaking of games that President Obama is very excited about, we talked a ton about the games we got to play. No, everyone's still a president. You still call them president even after.
You really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, welcome to America, yo.
That's how we call Marty President Marty. He served a little known 3-day term as president between the two George Bush.
Let Marty be Marty.
Weird.
The West Wing. We mentioned a ton of the games that all of us played at E3. Two of the games I feel like we sort of didn't talk about a bunch just because we didn't get a chance to play were Wolfenstein and Shadow of War.
Yeah.
And those are 2 games you did get to play.
Those are the 2 that I played the most of.
Yeah,
actually.
so those are obviously
Yes.
2 of the big games of the fall. So you want to talk about those a little bit?
Wolfenstein is officially the game I am most excited about this year, just in general. Because unfortunately it was E3. It feels like it was forever ago at this point. But I think you spoke to Lucy about it after she played it, right? So it's a lot like the New Order, which I loved. Same characters, same appearance. And you start off in a ship and Blazkowicz is in a wheelchair, effectively naked. And you just wake up and you're holding a gun wheeling around
what does
this
effectively
chair.
naked mean?
He's just in a bathrobe, but it's a little bit revealing. So it's like, in terms of like effect, he's naked.
Do you get to see any grundle?
I didn't see any grundle, but I also didn't look in any mirrors. He's like a little bit short.
If you look down, what do you see? You know how certain like shooters are like, can you
just
see your feet?
No,
Yeah.
you can see his lap in the wheelchair, but you can't see.
Did he say anything about his colon, like while he's in the wheelchair? Like what's the status of his colon in that scene?
Oh no, he's very much in need of medical help in a bunch of ways.
I see.
So he's like, it's actually super fascinating that you take something that you were making as a dumb joke and be like, it's actually pretty interesting the way they had this American war hero painted in a situation of vulnerability. Really is quite a strong point.
Yeah, it really subverts the tropes of standard masculine machismo and first-person shooters.
Yeah. So you're going around the ship trying to kill the Nazis who just invaded because they are looking for you. And I don't remember the woman's name from the first game. Maybe I shouldn't even talk
Elsa?
about it. Yeah, it's Elsa and Anna who are chasing after you. No, completely different woman. Different woman from the first game, not the
The love interest. Gotcha.
And someone else on the ship has basically set up all of these microwaves in terms of they are not like a literal microwave. It's basically
Reheating your old Taco Bell from the night
two
before.
big things on walls, and you press a button and it turns on, and if any enemies run through it, they just explode. So you have to kind of work with that mechanic because you are super underpowered at that point. You're very, very vulnerable. They kill you so quickly if they see you, so you have to sort of turn things on and off, try to lure them through them. You can still shoot at them, but it's tough. And also get around the ship whilst in a wheelchair, which I think is one of the things retrospectively that I like the most about New Order is the kind of environmental puzzles, which is, one of them, there's just this giant wheel that's got like a little yellow indicator on it, and you just have to like roll onto one of them and then sort of move over and get off while you can. It took me a really long time to figure that out. It's like, oh yeah, it's Wolfenstein. I missed this because most shooters don't do this. It gives you all this downtime in between combat where you are exploring the environment and figuring out how to use things to your advantage. And so then it gets to the very end, enemy shows up, you are on the ground being made fun of for being an American war hero who is disabled and can't do very much. And at the same time, the bad guy's daughter is there, who is this obese woman who is effectively trying to not let main bad guy like beat the crap out of you and humiliate you too much. And it's just this super weird dynamic of this like overweight girl being just aggressively fat shamed, being almost bullied into killing you, and just like everyone just being distraught. And it's like, it's such for an E3 demo, I was like, man, this is like
there's a lot of stuff to unpack here.
Yeah, but it was really like A, fun to play, and B, just like presented themes that I don't think I've seen in a ton of games before. And it's like, I don't feel like it was like any strong political commentary or had like a strong political stance. It was just like, this world is messed up, deal with it. It's like, it was a lot to absorb. I really
very
liked it.
similar to the demo of Everybody's Golf that I played at E3.
Yeah, it sounds really similar to that.
No, that sounds awesome. I mean, I'm getting to this weird point where every fall I feel like Bethesda has the most interesting, or at least one of the most interesting games.
I think that they are my favorite publisher right now. It's hard to say, but like, if I was definitely like pre-Microsoft Rare, my favorite dev for such a long time. And then like now it's more in publishers than devs, but then it came to like Ubisoft, and then it was like Ubisoft's getting too similar. And I think now it's Bethesda, and last year having Dishonored 2, this year having Wolfenstein, like both my most anticipated games of both of these years, and they both just, even from the demos, are so good. It's like they're making really good stuff.
Yeah, it's almost, I mean, it's funny because we played Lost Legacy, and I feel like Naughty Dog has been really good in the last few years of like, the things that worked well in Last of Us informed Uncharted 4 and have now informed this.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing some stuff from Uncharted 4 will inform Last of Us 2.
I mean, they have to be one of my favorite developers. It's like publishers and developers, it's like hard to...
Sure.
But for publisher, Bethesda for sure.
But I feel like Bethesda's really good at the same thing, that like it does feel like Dishonored, or I mean Prey rather, borrowed some things from Dishonored, and like granted it's Arcane's sister studios, but still like I feel like Bethesda does a really good job with sort of that vibe that they have, and about that like smart use of technology, and like Wolfenstein is so good at that.
I mean,
the trailer was so good too.
Yeah,
and then I
trailer
played
was
it. It
incredible.
was like, I like this so much, and it's different. It's like this.
And Bethesda does such a good job of, obviously Bethesda Studios or Softworks or whichever one's the developer is obviously super talented. Like Todd Howard's team is incredible.
BGS.
But they also partner with people like Machine Gun Games. Shout out to Poland. They also partner with like Tango and with Arcane. So it is these like in this incredible diverse portfolio of developers who, so many of them just make really strong narrative driven single player games with really interesting and fresh mechanics.
They don't even bother going for multiplayer, which is like
same thing with Doom
that I love right now, and I want to hope that's going to get phased out eventually. But I mean, they have Quake in lieu of that, and obviously they have ESO as well. So it's like, but like this is, I think, definitely going to be just a very strong single player experience that I'm hoping where this leads off of is you not having any weapons and having to get out of this enemy ship, basically.
And this is one of the games that comes out on that faithful day. That's slightly less busy now. Because so it's this, Assassin's Creed, Mario, Stranger Things Season 2, and then it was going to be the third Cloverfield movie, but that got delayed till next year.
Yeah.
Jigsaw is coming out that day, though. Jigsaw, the final chapter in the Saw series.
Are you really?
Yes.
I've seen all of those.
Why?
You've seen all of them?
I've seen every single one. Yeah. And
what's wrong with you?
Well, it was kind of a joke in college that we would like watch through all of them and like try to piece the story together to make sense of it. So I've seen all of those movies. I feel like I know a lot about the Saw lore.
What's the one where they throw the guy into the vat of needles?
All of
Second one.
Oh, I think I've only seen Saw 1 and 2.
Also, it's a girl they throw into the needle pit.
Right.
In America, was
because they're like, you're a junkie. Get in.
What's Saw 3?
Was that the 3D one? Saw 3D?
Yeah,
there was one that
sounds
was
right.
I don't remember.
Saw,
what it's
Saw
called.
5 colon Saw 3D.
Saw 5 colon. All took place in a man's colon.
There's
Lemmy
one
winks.
of them where they're trying to figure out who this bad guy is by like undistorting his voice from a recording that he left, and then it's so dumb. They do it. They like manage to get his voice real, and then they realize it's the guy who's in the same room as them, standing behind them. So it's like they're like
Dun, dun,
just like
dun.
dramatic stare at this guy when they all realize, but that's his voice, and then everyone's just like, what? And then he
he's
just kills them all.
and
And
he's
it's like,
gotcha.
come on, man.
Scarecrow. Yeah.
It's very dumb.
They brought back like Carrie Elwes, and I think he's like
Yeah.
a bad guy now.
Yeah.
No, he was. Which one was that?
He was the first one. He was
no,
in the
no, no,
original
no. I know,
Saw.
but which was the one where they brought him back?
Saw
Four?
Foursome.
I feel like it might have been 4.
Yeah.
So
So I thought I saw
So
that one.
Saw 3D, Saw Foursome, Saw 5 Guys,
Yeah.
Saw 6 Flags Great America, Saw 7 the David Fincher film.
see that joke about the 8th Fast and Furious should be it's like fasten your seatbelt was the joke, but it looks a lot better when it's written down. It was a very
Yeah,
good
like
tweet.
Fast 10. Yeah, like
Oh, that was 10.
Yeah.
Right, it was 10.
Yeah.
It was
Fast 10 years
your
seatbelt.
seatbelt.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
great.
Coming up on
fan
it.
of that.
Yeah, I'm sure The Rock will do that.
8's the most recent one, right?
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Wolfenstein's great.
You played that other game about the mean
Played,
goblins
like,
who scream at you.
almost. I think I played almost 2 hours of Shadow of War.
So you beat it.
No.
Okay.
I'm sure it's quite a long game. And it is, I wish that it weren't so long since I'd played the other one because I can't like truly speak to how updated it is. They added a double jump. You get to do like cool flippy things in the air.
Cool flippy things.
Yeah.
Wow. Troy Baker
You know-
finally going up in the world.
Yeah, orcs don't like that.
No.
Yeah,
they
they're
don't,
really
they don't
scared
like
of it.
double jumps.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. It's a lot of fun, especially with like all the wraith abilities. You like jump into the air, like shoot an arrow, and then just keep jumping.
And we have like a lot in the IGN first that we did. There's so like I went back and watched some of that somewhat recently, and I was like, oh wow, there's so much stuff here that
Yeah.
I didn't know about that game.
Yeah. And a
It's-
ton of
it
footage from E3.
Feels
Yeah.
more organic than the first one, which I think is something that was missing. That felt like a vaguely empty world that was populated by orcs is how they made it feel alive. Whereas this has like this area that has different things in it that feel totally different, which I feel is accurate when it comes to Lord of the Rings. So one thing is like I went into this forest and had to fight like these 4 different enemies that were like totally different, and then sort of the queen of the forest comes out and has a conversation with you, and it's like just super Lord of the Ringsy because it's this weird giant character who's talking to you about in like a very strange accent about stuff that matters to her in that universe that nobody else would ever care about.
Sure.
which
So
I
sort of
feel
like how
is
the
super
Ents, when you
Tolkien.
talk to the Ents in
Kind of.
the Two Towers, it's like, oh, you
He's
guys.
like, what are you, puny human?
Yeah.
Like, you smell bad.
Dude,
and
I
it's like, I
love-
really liked that.
That's like weirdly one of my favorite vibe in games. It's what I loved about the God of War games. Actually, it's like
Yeah.
when, that moment when you do meet like Gaia or whoever it is,
And they're
she's
just like,
"Why are you
oh,
bothering
your
me?"
problem. Yeah.
It's
Why?
exactly
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah,
which I
that's
really
really cool.
liked. And the Nemesis system has been updated. It's also there is a positive version of the Nemesis system where you can recruit people, and your own recruits have their own
Confidants.
Nemesis system.
Confidants! On!
God damn it. Hashtag Persona.
Don't worry, there's a Persona question coming up.
Oh, excellent. But it's like basically the people that you've recruited will fight for you when you go to take down forts, which are, just giant areas that have one of the nemesises who've been elevated enough by whatever you've done in the world to kind of control this fort. And when you go in there, you get to like choose the people you're going to send in. You can send in like different kind of mounts that will counter the abilities of whatever mounts they have. And you can like have ones that was like, I think a poison ability and just like different kind of buffs basically that you can equip your team with to attack the fort. You have to capture 3 points. You can send some of your leading orcs to go and do that. And then you sort of just like confirm the capture, go into the actual fort, and there's a boss fight that was really, really hard. And I'm sure it was mostly hard because there was a huge skill tree, like a giant skill tree compared
It's
to
always
the first
weird.
one that I didn't
Open world
familiar with.
previews are always weird because it sort of tosses you at a section
Several
of the
hours into the
game,
game.
and you're just like, oh, well, I haven't learned everything.
Yeah.
This is my character.
Yeah, but
exactly.
it was still super fun. And you just there's so much the way that I think that they've updated the climbing in the game meant that I felt like I was very fast and agile and could get away when I needed to come back. And I think that all of those forts are going to play very differently, and you're going to have different tactics going into them. That's what I'm hoping. And that appeals to me. I feel like I could spend an entire afternoon taking down the forts and have fun, and that could be a whole game, and I'd be like, this is great.
And it seems like it's sort of ramping up the scale in the same way the movies did, whereas like Fellowship, like the biggest battles were like a bunch of people in a forest or a fight against a cave troll, whereas this is like zooming out, and you do have these massive like castles, and it almost feels like Helm's Deep, Minas Tirith stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
It was more tactical as well.
I know more about Lord of the Rings than I thought. Like I didn't think I was going to get there when I was
Okay,
going.
proud of you.
Yeah. You were proud of me?
Yeah. Well, I
Incredible.
mean, to the extent that I could be proud of you. Yeah.
that means.
I'm very proud of you. I'm just joking.
Cool. Shadow of War is
I
another
think
game.
it's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's a good year for climbing, also.
Well,
Sorry, I
but
have nothing more to
it's-
contribute than that.
Well,
but
it's not necessarily though because
Because
Zelda
one
was
game
the
already-
best and
yeah.
it came out first. This does have good climbing.
Yeah.
We'll give it that.
I mean, so does Uncharted. Like that. Once I remembered how to do it, the Uncharted climbing feels great. And like
I
even
had trouble even playing The Lost Legacy and being like, "What do you mean I can't climb this rock?"
that's true.
Come on.
That part of it's hard. That sense of like, oh, there's like things that they're like
Can't
invisible barriers.
Yeah, little naked boy Link can climb up this rock. Surely Nadine can.
Yeah.
Yeah. The naked boy Link of the Uncharted universe. All right, we're wrapping up the show with the segment we call Rapid Fire. The way this works is we go into our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/podcastbeyond. Join that every week. We're in there chatting with you guys, and you can leave a comment that we read on the show. Andrew printed off a very small sheet, so I had to pick it up and put it near my eyes. Nicholas Brillhart asked,
quite long.
what was the best trailer from Comic-Con?
Stranger Things
I was going to say the exact.
by far.
I think Stranger Things was very good. I think Thor was also up there.
Very good too.
Or was also good.
Yeah,
I thought Westworld was not good. I
mean,
thought
well,
the
I
Westworld
needed-
trailer. I was like, you didn't tell me anything.
I needed a previously on for the trailer because I was like, wait, what's the deal with that Harris again? Like, which one of these people died? I was like, is Jeffrey right? Like, he's a robot, right? Like, it's just like, I needed a reminder. Once I like refreshed myself on who they were, I watched it again. I was like, oh, this is actually cool because there are little tidbits, but like going into that blind, I was like watching it from my phone and missing details.
Yeah.
Stranger Things was awesome.
Yeah.
Like the
That- that
Dragon's
was
Lair
definitely my
thriller,
favorite.
like
Yeah.
it was an homage to an era that worked really well for me in the way that Ready Player One didn't.
Oh yeah, I
didn't
did not like
particularly
that trailer.
No,
Yeah,
a lot of
no,
people
no.
did, but
I really didn't like the Justice League trailer either. I mean, not that
I thought it was better than the first one.
Justice League. Are you talking about the 4-minute trailer?
Yeah, that was a very long trailer.
I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was bizarre that they chose to release a 4-minute trailer. And I'm wondering if that was to be like, okay, we know that we've screwed up and people have been mad about DC movies. Here's a bunch of things about this one that's pretty good. Please like us.
But they're doing the thing people were mad about, or not the thing, but one thing people were mad about with BVS was that they showed
Thing
too
is a
much in the
Marvel character.
trailer.
No, you're right.
And so now they did it again, and it's like, why? Like, I don't. Also, like, it's still so weird that they're relying on like weird like classic rock rather than any kind of orchestrated score. Like, they're just doing. It just feels like it's Batman versus Superman again. Yeah, totally. But at least that's original. Like, this was like I forget the name of the song, but they were playing.
Wasn't it Come Together?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
it was
right.
Come Together. Yeah, but it was like that weird cover of Come
I think
Together.
I'm
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to
yeah.
like the character of the Flash.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
mean,
same guy
he's
from,
comic relief.
He's in Harry Potter. He's in.
No, he's not.
He's
in. Oh yeah, he was in. Sorry, the newest. one.
Fantastic
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 Beasts.
Beasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's in like Perks of Being a Wallflower. He's in
Yeah.
a bunch of random things.
Yeah.
I
He seems
don't
like a
mind
legend.
him. I don't know his Flash. What bothers me about it right now is that it's like somber, somber, somber. Flash says something funny. Somber, somber, somber. Like, it just feels like someone read a script and was like, hey, every 8 lines insert comic relief. Like, that's what it feels like right now. Obviously in a trailer you can't get a taste of it, but I liked a lot of the TV trailers. I thought it was weird. There were a bunch of trailers that did this thing for like Gotham and Arrow, and a bunch of shows did this where like they showed in a 4-minute trailer, 3 minutes of it was a full recap of season 3.
Could've used that in Westworld.
Season 4.
Well,
Yeah, exactly. Westworld was the one trailer I wanted then.
Yeah.
Thor was also good, like I said.
Yeah. Thor was great. The ending shot.
Hey,
I'm
did,
so
did
sold
you
for
guys
that
hear
movie.
where I mentioned Thor? I feel like you mentioned that like 3 times.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about it.
No, Thor. The
Yeah.
Thor trailer was super cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
agree.
was beautiful.
I agree, Alana.
Yeah, and Taika Waititi hugged Terry during an interview. It's great.
Aw.
Yeah, I want Taika Waititi to hug me.
Me too.
I also just want that Infinity War footage to come out because everything Jonathan said about it sounds
Sounds so
incredible,
good.
and I watched several terrible camera shots of it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why I did that, but it looks very cool.
That was
To
that one
clarify,
that was
Jonathan
actually
did
just a
not take the-
rickroll.
Jonathan did not take the
Oh yeah,
camera.
remember when we all got rickrolled? Yeah.
I hate you, Andrew. Moving on, Richard White asked, "How about a live-action Netflix series based on the world of Persona? Good idea or bad idea?"
Always a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I like the anime, but like even that, like I
should watch that Persona 5 anime.
it's just one episode. Yeah, I have it. If you want it. Yeah, it's like basically I like the sense of choice in that game. It's like I mean, you joke, but like the fact that you do really like on and like you want to like that's what you chose and that's your game. Like I think that's part of like those feel like your friends. And if there's a character you don't like, you just don't hang out with them. Whereas in a show, it's like, well, I guess I have to watch a 30-minute episode about that guy.
Idea. I beat the game. I send my save file to Mr. and Mrs. Anime, and then they make an anime based on my confidant levels with everyone.
You might
I mean,
have
it would
to
be
pay
cool.
them.
It would be
Mr.
cool
and
if they
Mrs.
were,
Anime?
Yeah.
It would be cool if they were pre-baked. I mean, you were joking, but it would be cool if they were like pre-baked, like basically like you could assemble your own like pieces into
I
like
like this.
so they could make like an on route
I like
and
this.
a Makoto route and whatever.
I started laughing because there was that video game that we both played that that I've spoken to you about that has the anime ending movie?
The sex one? Yeah,
That's
the sex
why I didn't
flash
say
game.
what it was.
You can say sex flash game.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm so
There was
used
this
to- I'm
dating.
so
It was like
used to
one of the
Disney.
earliest flash games we both remember playing was this dating sim that was pretty much just a sex sim,
On
like
E-bombs.
E-bombs or Newgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like super
You
tactical.
were there when we were talking
and-
about. We were talking about it at dinner like a couple weeks ago at Red Dog. We were talking about
Yeah.
early
Oh
games.
yeah, I was too distracted by the beer bread.
But I'm pretty sure.
yeah, the purebred.
really good
it's not a great podcast.
But I'm pretty sure that the ending episode is tailored to whichever girl you end up with.
Yeah, yeah,
You got that?
yeah.
That nice.
Yeah, so we should just do that.
what
Someone make me a pornography where my main character, who I named Akira, is making love to An.
Thank you.
I
Next
like that you
question.
went with the canon name.
Thanks. Next question, I guess continuing with Persona. Chris Tomaszek asks, when Atlas inevitably re-releases an enhanced version of Persona 5 a la P4 Golden, what new feature would you want them to
No, I don't think they're going to. I think that they had to do that because they're always late in the generation.
Because Persona 4 came out it was a PS2 game when PS3 was already a thing.
and so, exactly. So they're generally late, so they do enhanced versions, but like this time instead they just simultaneously came out in PS4 also.
I think it's
so
like-
that PS4 release was in place of Persona 5.
Would have been
Golden
like,
or whatever.
imagine if Persona 5 had come out on PS3,
Yeah.
like when they said it was going to come out in like 13 or
2014 or
14
whatever, yeah.
And then I feel like we would have got a PS5 enhanced edition.
I agree. Yeah, totally. Like I think it would have been a more typical Persona timeline if it had actually come out in winter 2014, but on PS3 despite PS4 being out. And then 2 years later you get like an extended. Hey, I'm sunburned everywhere, including my brain. Like a new version with extra stuff. But I don't know. I don't even think we'll get DLC. Honestly, I think they're gonna milk this into Persona 5 fighting, Persona 5 dancing, like the same way they did with 4.
To vaguely rephrase this question to answer it, like if they were to re-release it with an enhanced version, like Persona 5 Golden, what new features would you want them to include?
So it's missing the Aeon. Like what they do in those extended versions is they add an extra social link basically. So it's like Aeon was Aegis in Persona 3 FES, and it was Marie in Persona 4 Golden. I believe it was Aegis in Persona 3. So they're missing that extra social link. I don't know.
Or being able to choose the gender of your main character.
That would
that
be
kind of
amazing. Like they did in Portable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who that would be in this game.
Oh,
I
it would
guess
be a
they would have
character who
to-
already exists in the world?
Well, I mean, I assume, right? Because this in this story, it would be very hard to inject another character because this one is much more like everyone's working. I don't know.
I want to date the bartender at Crossroads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
There's a bar in the game called Crossroads.
Oh. Sick.
There's also a place near IGN called Crossroads, which is
Yeah,
why a
and
lot
I
of
was
got
just like,
confused.
you want to date someone who works at Crossroads?
I know
Maybe.
exactly which one you mean.
Don't kink shame. Our
Which
final
one?
question by Iden Simmons. Where's one place in the world you haven't been that you would like to go?
Japan and or Belgium.
Ooh,
What? Pick two.
Barcelona, or I feel like Iceland would be.
You guys haven't been to Alaska. You should go there.
I want to go to
I'd like
Alaska.
to go to
I want to.
Alaska.
I want to see Aurora
Shout out
Borealis.
to Alaska. It's the most
Yeah.
beautiful thing I've ever seen.
My roommates.
Wow.
My roommates' parents live there, and I feel like I should just go like milk that while they're there.
Oh yeah, we should all go.
It's amazing. It's
You got to see the Northern Lights.
yeah, and like the way that I explain how beautiful it is that it was minus 42 or something absurd. And we were in the Arctic Circle, and I walked outside of like the truck that I was in, immediately get asthma. Like it hits me in the chest. I cannot breathe. Straight up can't breathe. And my face hurts. I'm freezing cold, and I still just stood out there for like 20 minutes staring at the sky, not being able to breathe, and being in like the most temperature-related pain I have ever been in. But I was like, I do not care because this is the most beautiful thing that I will ever witness.
It was also because you were depriving your brain of oxygen, and so like it just
Yeah.
you didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah,
but
you
no,
probably-
I've heard it is literally one of the most beautiful things on earth.
It's the thing that's like particularly surprised me about it is that it moves really quickly. It's like a river. So like 1 second it looks like it's flowing one direction, and then it just completely like crosses across the
Oh, that's
sky,
so
and
cool.
Yeah,
it's incredible. It's so pretty. It's like the kind of moment where you're looking at something and you're like, damn, like this is the universe that we actually live in.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I maybe once or twice in my life have had that feeling of like, oh, like this isn't like a pretty effect in a movie. This isn't like a pretty thing in a game or whatever. Like this is like something that's so beautiful that like it does look like it like shouldn't actually
Shouldn't be there.
exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. Otherwise, I want to go to Japan for obvious reasons.
bad rules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Japan.
And hopefully I get to go at some point. And then I want to go to Belgium.
Waffles.
Don't know why. I mean, they're supposed to have good chocolate.
You
They
should go
got
to
waffles.
Amsterdam. We went to Amsterdam last year. It was
Well,
really
I was gonna try and organize like a thing around Gamescom, but now I don't know if I'm going. But Belgium is just like the architecture that's really nice, and I think the way that I approach places I want to travel is like I want to sit here and draw.
You should go to Prague.
Yeah, I hear
Yeah.
Prague
It's
is really
gorgeous.
cool.
Yeah. I want to go to Bruges.
Bruggies?
Mm.
That's
Well,
such a
I
good
want to
movie.
watch In
Bruges.
Bruges because that movie's really good.
Bruges is such a good movie.
It is a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the note we're going to leave you on. You should all watch In Bruges. That was Beyond episode 503. You can follow us all on Twitter. I'm at McBiggity. Alana is at Charlanazard. Andrew is at Garfep. Is there anything you want to plug particularly?
By the time you're watching this, my Uncharted Lost Legacy preview is up. Alana should be up within a few days after that. And then also, I did a pretty interesting interview with Kurt Margano, game director on Lost Legacy. So that'll hopefully go up later in the week or early next week.
Cool.
So I would plug the IGN show. That's the thing we do every day. That is airing weeknights at 9:30. But it's also every single episode goes up on IGN.com and I think on YouTube
they're
the
on
next
YouTube.
morning. So
Yeah.
you can check them all out.
Yeah, check that out. It's very cool. I don't do anything good, so don't follow me for any of that. Besides our own personal Twitters, you can support the show by subscribing to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/IGNBeyond. We mentioned the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/podcastbeyond. And any of your podcast services, subscribe, leave us a like, leave us a nice comment, give us a review. Every little bit helps. So for Alana and Andrew, my name is Marty. That was Beyond episode 503. We'll see you all next week. Bye.